We will have more coming from the Latrobe Valley throughout the course of this week. Kieran Gilbert with AM Agenda. We'll be there with PM Agenda a little later in the week as well. And plenty to talk about in that part of the world. Facing some real challenges once again. Let's get to our panel though right now. Our two political strategists joining us as they do each Monday afternoon, Grahame Morris and Bruce Hawker. Great to see you both. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with Donald Trump. He keeps on making news every day, it seems, since he took the job. Now, this executive order, though, on immigration. Grahame, to you first. What do you think of it, and what do you think of some of the reaction we've seen?
Well, look, after 90 days, once this ban finishes, if he can get it right after that, I think he's well on the way for people, the electorate, to give him a huge tick for his first 4 years and is almost on his way to his second 4 years. This is really important. If he could have balanced it, and could still, but if he could have balanced it with a bit of an increase in the intake of traditional sort of migrants and refugees, it probably would have been a nice balance. But he said he was going to do it. He's been strong. And we've got leaders from other parts of the world whinging. And if you have a look at them, most of them cannot control their own borders.
But Grahame, do you take the point that these world leaders and others have made, that there's a lot of confusion about dual nationals who have residency in the US? They may not be able to leave the US right now to come and visit their sick mum in Australia or whatever, because they're not sure if they'll be allowed back in.
David, you're right. There is confusion over a couple of the details. But the message he sent is that, and such a powerful line, is that we have young women and young men in various parts of the world fighting some of these Muslim extremists, and here we are inviting them into America.
Well,
I thought it was a very powerful
I don't think they're
political line.
inviting Muslim extremists into America, are they? I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, Grahame.
No. That was his message, and it cut through.
What Muslim extremists have they invited into the United States?
Say again?
You said that Trump is trying to say we're inviting Muslim extremists into the country. They're not inviting Muslim extremists into the US.
Well, we don't know. They don't know. His message is, hey, some of these people are doing bad things around the world. We want to stop them coming to our country. And apart from that, our young people in the Defence Force are overseas fighting them. Yeah. And there we are inviting them in.
The CIA, Homeland Security and Immigration, it's their job to stop extremists being amongst those that are being allowed in the country. Bruce, is this a reflection that perhaps they're not doing a very good job, that Trump doesn't think his agencies have been screening those that are allowed in tightly enough?
Well, whether he thinks that or not, I think he knows that he's on something of a winner with this policy. It's one of the big things that really gave him a groundswell of support in America. And as such, I don't think we're going to see him back away from it. Otherwise, he'd be alienating both the people who oppose him and those who supported him for the presidency. It comes down to that, I think. Now, I've got very grave reservations about it. I don't think it's going to keep people who are intent on doing terrible things in America from doing them. They will continue to do it because a lot of these people are homegrown. Maybe one of the things they could do if they really want to stop people being killed in America is to do something about handguns. 30,000 Americans die from gun wounds every year.
Well, it's a fair point, and probably not one you'll get a lot of disagreement on in Australia when it comes to gun law reform. But I guess this is a bit of a separate issue. What then about how Malcolm Turnbull has reacted to it, Grahame? I take it you probably have no concern with the way he refused to buy into it.
Well, I don't. And what do journos expect him to say? Trump and Australia are, look, they're not in the same boat on this, but by jingoes, there are some similarities. And we have been able to control our borders. America is trying to. Well, you can hardly say, hey, President Trump, you're on the wrong track, when we've already done it. And I don't think, there are some things that the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister, will get stuck into Trump over. But it shouldn't be this one.
Yeah, but look, the difference, I suppose, is we've tried and successfully managed to stop illegal arrivals, undocumented arrivals, irregular maritime arrivals, boat people, whatever you call them. What Trump is talking about is, even on a student, a business, a visa, anyone at all, legally going into the US. That's not something we've done here.
Well, he is at the moment, that's right. But let's see what happens after 90 days.
Yeah.
And it may well be that he's made the big announcement. The rest of the world has got the message, wow, America's fair dinkum about this. And then he's going to have to fine-tune a couple of things so that, for example, people with dual citizenship, say Australians and POMs and whatnot, will be able to go freely to and from.
We will see. I want to get your thoughts on the big domestic issues this week. We've got both Bill Shorten tomorrow and then Malcolm Turnbull on Wednesday addressing the National Press Club here in Canberra, both obviously wanting to set the agenda, lay out their plans for 2017. Bruce, what do you think? Let's start with Bill Shorten. What does he need to do tomorrow?
Well, I think Bill is at the point in his leadership of the party where he really needs to lay out for the Australian public his alternative vision. I think even though the next election is some way off, there's no doubt that he's got Turnbull into a fair bit of strife already, mainly as a result of Turnbull's own sort of, I guess, leaded foot in the way in which he's dealt with a whole range of issues. He's been a bit of a stumbler. But now I think it's up to Bill Shorten to talk about, the issues that he really wants to take to the Australian people. And in this day and age where, there is a real rejection of the so-called insiders in Canberra, and we're seeing that reflected around the world, I think Shorten has to take, be mindful of that and mould his policies in a way that take note of concerns that people have about being out of touch, and and that goes for him as much as it goes for any other politician. He really has to.
And what are those issues, though, Bruce? I mean, is that when we get to housing affordability? Is that when we talk about immigration issues? I mean, what are the things that are being missed?
Well, I don't think he should really dive too deeply into the whole immigration issue. I think that's a real problem for him. But I do think he needs to be talking to the electorate about the things that they are really feeling great concern about. And first and foremost in that, of course, is housing affordability, particularly in big cities like Sydney and Melbourne. We can't get away from the fact that whole generations of people are being kept out of the city gates because they can't afford a mortgage to live inside cities where they should be able to live. And governments have to deal with that. That's where you get back in touch with people by understanding and sympathising and empathising with the issues that they are concerned about.
Yeah. Well, and I guess they tried to do that at the last election with the negative gearing policy.
Sure.
Graham, I'm keen for your thoughts on not just Shorten, but what the two of them, what Malcolm Turnbull needs to do as well.
Well, both of them for a start. I'm sick of this sort of using the press club to say, hey, look at me, but nothing new. And all that he's saying, look, journalists, please hit me.
Exactly right.
It's just silly. You've got to turn up with something new. Up the language, if you like, if there's no new policy. But for Mr. Shorten, I think he has to prove that he exists. There's something there about, hey, the opposition leader is Senator Hanson, Senator Xenophon, Senator Hinch. He has to spell out what his role is going to be in the next couple of years, because at the moment he's not there. For the Prime Minister, again, I think very important to have something new, but I think it's also time to re-own the magic words that the Liberals stand for. One is family, one is small business. He already has done a fantastic job owning the word national security, that sort of stuff. He doesn't have to worry about that. Family and small business, he does have to re-own. And also, maybe it's time for one of those sort of, perhaps this isn't it, but a philosophical speech that says, me, Malcolm, and the Liberal Party, this is what we stand for. And I think at some stage that will be a very, very powerful speech for the Prime Minister.
Is that missing at the moment, Graham? What Malcolm Turnbull, is that missing at the moment, what Malcolm Turnbull and the Liberal Party stands for?
It is. And in fairness, that's not the PM's fault. He's got a million other things that he's had to talk about. But it's going to be very important in the future for the troops and whatnot to hang on to. And even for some of the, the Hanson preferences and some of the Xenophon preferences. Hey, Malcolm Turnbull, when you boil it down, Malcolm Turnbull is focusing on the things that I'm interested in. And that means getting rid of silly words like sustainability and getting rid of that dopey thing of digital disruption, that phrase, which just scares the hell out of everybody.
All right. We'll see what they do. I'm sure they'll be taking both of your advice.
But they don't.
Grahame Morris, we got to go. Thank you both very much for joining us. Look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a break and then back with the last word.
Meet